Welcome back, everybody, to the Dark Reading News Desk live from Black Hat 2023. I'm Becky Bracken, and we're glad to have you join us for our series of conversations about the latest research being presented from the conference. I am thrilled to welcome Kelly Shortridge. She is a senior principal at Fastly. She is here to talk about her research, Fast Ever Evolving Defenders, the Resilience Revolution. Welcome, Kelly.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. What is the Resilience Revolution? Can you explain that?
Yes, so I will start with the problem that we have in cybersecurity today and why we need a revolution,
Excellent.
which is everything you see around here is how we need to fight back better against attackers. We're too slow. Attackers are fast and ever evolving. My point is, well, why don't we start imitating them a little? Why can't we be nimble and empirical and curious? The resilience revolution is basically a transformation where we can start being a little more like attackers and being fast and ever evolving. Because resilience, if you look across complex systems of any kind, is the ability to prepare for, respond to, and adapt to failure gracefully. That's something attackers can do, but today, most security teams aren't the best at it.
Wow. Okay, so what does that mean, and how do we? Is there a playbook tweak you can make? I mean, what does that entail? That's a big challenge, I would imagine.
It is. I very much view it as a socio-technical transformation
Okay.
of the organization. The key foundational principle, I think the mindset that needs to shift is instead of we have to try to prevent failure, we have to try to prevent attacks, it's no. Failure, like an untied shoelace, is inevitable.
Okay.
Attacks are inevitable. So what we need to do is to minimize impact and improve our ability to respond to attacks better over time, to be able to evolve. So that's a key mindset shift. And then there are a whole bunch of opportunities that you can do in practice to start really implementing that.
Okay, so if I'm sitting in my SOC, what are some of the first things I'm going to do to help start my team and transfer them into an attacker mindset?
Ooh, a SOC. I think a key thing on the incident response side is really making sure that you're looking at all of the contributing factors to an incident. So we'll even see on the floor here, sometimes you blame human error, but human error isn't very useful as kind of it's basically a way to absolve ourselves of any responsibility and to blame someone else. Contributing factor says well, maybe the design of the system was confusing, or maybe there were competing priorities. A salesperson clicked on the link because they're trying to close a deal. It's understanding all of the factors that contributed to that attack being successful, and not just settling for the easy answer of, oh, well, a human, was lazy or whatever else. Humans aren't lazy.
Right.
We need to be a little more respectful and really dig into all of the messy complications that make failure possible.
So besides the upfront work, there is a response that needs to happen. And so how do we nimble that up?
Ooh, I'm a big fan of automation. So one thing I talked about in my talk was using things like infrastructure as code and CI/CD to be able to update things like block lists or to be able to patch on demand. Because one thing I see a lot, even still in cybersecurity, is that speed is viewed as the enemy, which isn't helpful. But if we can move quickly, it means, again, we can release security updates and fixes quickly as well, and we can fight back and, again, minimize impact. So definitely on the response side, we need to be embracing speed more than trying to resist it.
All right, so what are some of the things we should be stealing from defenders? What are they doing that we can copycat and use against them in kind?
Yeah, so I think one thing with attackers, there are actually quite a few things. Again, one, they're very speedy, they stay nimble, they leverage automation. They also are pretty good at experimentation. They want to really understand, is my attack going to be successful? And I think that's something, again, we aren't great on the defense side at experimenting, so I'm a big fan of chaos experiments to validate that security controls are working as you intend. The other thing I think is interesting, and what I mentioned in the talk, is attackers' challenge are this will always be true assumptions, the things we take for granted, like a firewall will always detect a misconfigured port. It probably won't. So attackers will poke and prod that. We need to be doing that proactively too.
Because we are in these institutions where we need to move from thing to thing, and we have, and again, SEC regulation. I mean, there's no shortage of things bogging down the cybersecurity industry. But how are they going to do that under? I mean, you're disclosing within 4 days, but also now attacker. It just seems like a very difficult task. Is it doable?
I think it is doable. I think it's doable when we start to think about security as a subset of software quality. And I know CISA is talking about this. I'm a huge fan of what they talk about with secure by design.
Okay.
Big fan of that. I have an ice cream cone hierarchy of security solutions that basically says roughly the same thing. We need to prioritize solutions that aren't bolt-ons, they're not policies. It's embedded in the design of the system that allows us to get that grace and that flexibility and to move quickly without having to put in so much manual effort, which I think we all want. We want to reduce that toil. But I think a key thing, again, like you mentioned, the SEC regulation is about minimizing impact. It's making sure that, failure is isolated, that you can recover quickly, that attackers don't get anything meaningful, even if they successfully get initial access.
So where would you focus? Where should the efforts be? Is it a threat hunting? Is it, I know there's been a lot of push about how threat hunting is no longer a nice thing to have. It's a need to have. Threat hunting is becoming more specialized, it seems, in different areas. So is that the key, or are there other things that should be done earlier?
I'm going to have a hot take. I don't think threat hunting is very useful for this.
Wow.
I know.
Okay.
It's fun. It's fun. Threat hunting is so fun. Talking about APTs and everything is so fun. But what we really need, again, is we need to think about the design. We need to think about what is going to improve our resilience to attack over time so we aren't just encountering the same things. And sure, we can learn maybe more about the specific style of attack, but really there are a lot of design-based mitigations like isolation, or even in my talk I mentioned message brokers and queues that can help us across a variety of attacks. So really the particulars of the attack matter less than making sure that, again, based on our design, we're eliminating or reducing hazards. Again, I call it a revolution because this is a huge mind shift from everything we're hearing about here.
Well, and of course, the first thing a business division would say is, we have invested so much on these legacy systems, we're not going to rip it all out and replace it by code. What is the argument, or what is the path toward getting there?
Oh, there are lots of paths. Again, this is something where I wish there was more collaboration between security and software engineering teams. Because what software engineering teams don't like legacy stuff either. No. They're trying to often modernize stuff for reliability, for things that make money. And security can kind of glom onto those efforts to make sure, hey, let's build it in a safer way. I think actually if you look at production environments, for instance, nobody wants their, what I call the money printer of their website or their application going down. Security tools can put that at risk. Security tools can cause that downtime. Changing the design instead is a lot, in some sense, less risky of a proposition than buying some sort of bolt-on tool, depending on the case. So I think, again, it's less of a lift than you'd think. You don't have to revolutionize your systems overnight. You do have to revolutionize your mindset and, again, start thinking about this design-based solutioning.
Interesting. Okay, well, moving forward, I know that automation, I get a lot of questions from people about where automation makes the most sense. So maybe to just sort of give us a final thought, are the automation tools, where do they need to go?
I think, again, there's great wealth of tools and approaches from software engineering we should adopt. Again, things like CI/CD. Infrastructure as code, I think I went through at least 7 or 8 benefits in my talk of that. Again, fixing patches faster incident response, stronger change control, minimize misconfigurations, minimizing environmental drift. To me, that is the tool to really look for, is infrastructure as code. It's declarative. You don't really have to know how to code, but it means that we can encode certain properties we want in our system, which is just fabulous as a security tool. But again, we aren't really talking about it yet.
No, we are not. Yeah. Well, I am so grateful to you for coming by and helping us visualize the revolution.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it, and we will see you again soon, I hope.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.